On a recent episode of Hot Ones, guest Elijah Wood mentioned that one of his favorite horror movies is Truth or Dare, A Critical Madness.
What can you tell people about Truth or Dare, A Critical Madness?
It's sublime. It's so great. The performances are not good.
Considering how much I love Elijah Wood, when he highly recommended this movie, I knew I had to watch it and break down its insanity. Plus, I've already reviewed 2 other crazy Truth or Dare horror movies on my channel, so hey, what's one more? Truth or Dare, A Critical Madness is a 1986 low-budget horror movie shot by an 18-year-old first-time director. To say this movie is absurd or strange does not do it any justice. This is, without a doubt, one of the most batshit, fever dream, clusterfuck movies I have ever seen. Truth or Dare wastes no time getting to the action. Within the first 30 seconds, there's full-on nudity. We learn our lead character Mike, a nerdy businessman, is being cheated on by his wife. After this revelation of infidelity, Mike spends the next 5 minutes of the movie driving around aimlessly and sadly looking at his reflection in the water like Troy Bolton in High School Musical 2. Completely distraught, Mike even thinks about ending his life, but instead he just takes his frustration out on the roof of his car and drives off. Shortly down the road, Mike spots a random hitchhiker and picks her up. Despite trying to kill himself just 30 seconds prior, Mike instantly forgets all his life's problems and decides to go on a camping trip with his new friend. Next to the fire, they decide to play a game of Truth or Dare. This game starts off innocently enough with questions like,
"You still love your wife?
You are over 18, aren't you?
Throw your wallet into the fire."
To lift up your blouse.
all pretty standard Truth or Dares, until, on only the 5th dare of the game massively escalates and the hitchhiker asks Mike to cut out his eye. Mike, understandably, says no and jokes that she should do it. Since she isn't a chicken like Mike, the hitchhiker happily accepts. No hesitation, no blood, just a full orbital extraction quicker than it took her to flash her boobs to Mike. Mike, of course, is somewhat confused by her decision. But when Mike is dared to cut his finger off next, not wanting to look like a coward, he reluctantly accepts. Mike also accepts the dare to stab himself in the chest. Mike then completely wastes his next turn, daring the hitchhiker to simply kiss him, clearly missing the memo that the game has moved past middle school questions and is now onto full body mutilation. As the hitchhiker accepts his dare and kisses him, she transforms into Mike's cheating wife Sharon and blows boiling hot cum into his mouth. After the mouth-to-mouth, the hitchhiker disappears and we suddenly realize this was all just a hallucination. Mike is actually just crazy, he did all that to himself, and some random guy out for a midnight stroll finds Mike convulsing next to the fire. Mike is taken to a mental hospital and a year later released into public due to good behavior. Shockingly, this release turns out to not be a great decision, as the violent mental patient immediately shows up at the house of his ex-wife Sharon and her lover Jerry. Mike stalks them around the house dramatically, Mike kills Jerry, then Mike tries and fails to stab Sharon. Being stabbed himself in self-defense, Mike wanders into the dark and is readmitted back into the same hospital. Having learned absolutely nothing, Mike is immediately left alone with 2 other patients and a big knife. Mike starts up a new game of Truth or Dare, daring one guy to cut off his arm and to cut off his leg. The other guy doesn't get off any easier, as he is dared to eat a grenade and his head explodes. I can somewhat understand the knife, but where does Mike even get a grenade from? Can you just buy grenades at a store? Anyway, somehow Mike gets the worst dare of the 3 and is dared to cut his face off. Then, 5 months later, at the worst hospital in America, we see Mike has recovered and has been given a copper mask with a permanent frown. In a twist of events that no one should be surprised by at this point, Metal Mask Mike stabs an orderly and yet again escapes from this terrible hospital. At least this time, Mike is met with some semblance of resistance. The back door is left unlocked, but on his way out, Mike has to uppercut one guard off the 2nd floor, kick another random guy in the head, and steal a car in order to escape. Once again on the loose, Mike and his new face go on a gigantic killing spree. Mike mows down a baby in a stroller, he runs over the mother, Mike crashes his car into someone and it blows up. In a stunning turn of events, neither die in that explosion, so Mike gets out and shoots him with a machine gun. Mike uses the same machine gun to mow down a group at a bus stop. And if you thought all that other killing was bad, get ready for this. At one point, Mike gets in a car, spots a kid, grabs a chainsaw, and drive-by chainsaws him in half. Somehow, by some miracle, a baby stroller getting T-boned by a car is not the worst thing to happen to a child in this Truth or Dare movie. Before his 30-minute rampage ends, Mike also stops and kills a woman with a mace. At this point, I don't even know where he's getting these weapons anymore. A medieval mace, a machine gun, a grenade, a chainsaw. He's seemingly pulling it all out of his ass like he's a character in Grand Theft Auto. Now tired of all the random killings, Mike finally drives to Sharon's house to get his ultimate revenge for the infidelity at the start of this movie. Mike cuts down Sharon's door with his trusty chainsaw. He goes to kill Sharon in the shower, but surprise, there's a cop in there waiting instead. The cop then shoots Mike 5 times, downing him. The cop goes to get Sharon out of the closet, who for some reason had to be naked for their fake shower plan, only to realize he accidentally shot her too. As the cop is checking on Sharon, Mike miraculously springs back to life and kills that cop. But this time, Mike does not escape, as the cops finally figure out his one weakness. Mike is dared to put the gun down, he of course listens, and he is finally arrested. Though, since this movie just could not end in any logical way, rather than taking Mike to jail or putting him on death row for the murder of 30 people, Mike is, you guessed it, taken back to the same hospital where he will undoubtedly break out in a week and fly a plane into an orphanage. And that is Truth or Dare, A Critical Madness. No words can really do justice for how nuts that movie experience was. What a wild ride. That is just 90 minutes of pure insanity, featuring some of the weirdest scenes and most graphic murders I've ever seen in a movie. Truth or Dare was everything Elijah Wood hyped it up to be, and more. After watching this awesome bad movie and enjoying it, I wanted to see what else the director had made, hoping to watch something just as bonkers as Truth or Dare. And lo and behold, I was in luck, as on director Tim Ritter's IMDb page, I found his latest movie is titled Sharks of the Corn. I haven't watched it yet, but I can guarantee I will have a review for that movie on this channel as soon as I can. Anyways, that is Hot Ones horror movie Truth or Dare, A Critical Madness. Have you, like Elijah Wood, seen this movie? Are you excited for Sharks of the Corn? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please subscribe. I post new horror rants, reviews, commentaries, and deep dives on Fridays. As well on Mondays, I post quick 2-minute recommendations for horror movies available to watch on Shudder, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. I will be continuing to post horror content and recommendations all throughout October.